Thunder Bay Police investigate the discovery of a woman's body. A man convicted in a 2009 murder case learns his fate. And Barack Obama signals a thaw in relations with Iran. Good evening and thank you for joining us. Thunder Bay Police are investigating what they're calling a suspicious death on the city's south side.
They received an early morning 911 call that a woman may be dead inside a residence on the 200 block of South Archibald Street. Shortly after emergency crews arrived, the woman was confirmed to have died. Cheryl Holmes reports police are so far releasing few details about the case.
Local residents say this home was a crime scene waiting to happen. A resident we spoke with, who lives across the street and 4 houses down from this multi-unit house on the 200 block of South Archibald Street, says she was up until nearly 2 o'clock Tuesday morning listening to an argument outside the residence. City Police spokesperson Constable Julie Tilbury says an emergency call came in a few hours later.
At 6:22 this morning, Thunder Bay Police received a 911 call about a possible deceased person inside a residence in the 200 block of South Archibald Street. Emergency services were dispatched, and it was confirmed that there was a female there that had deceased.
While the name and age of the woman has not yet been released, neighbors say the man and woman involved in the argument were in their 20s or 30s. Investigators spent the day on scene collecting evidence and continuing the investigation into what they're calling a suspicious death.
That will assist our investigators who are currently looking at all the information they have available to them and determining the next steps in order to bring this investigation to a conclusion.
The resident we spoke with says a group of about 8 people came from the back of St. Patrick's Cathedral and up the block to this residence here. It was later that she heard and saw an argument between a man and a woman. The neighbors lived in the area for about 13 years now, and she says this street has become increasingly violent since a new resident moved into this home about 6 weeks ago. The investigation is ongoing, and police will release more details as they become available. Anyone with information about this suspicious death is asked to contact Thunder Bay Police or Crime Stoppers. Cheryl Holmes, TBT News.
The fate of convicted murderer Leif Hobson was decided today at the Superior Court of Justice. The 23-year-old man pleaded guilty earlier this year to killing 65-year-old Edgar Marion in July 2009. He's now been sentenced to life in prison with no eligibility for parole until 2024. Courtney Rutherford reports.
It began as an argument between 2 friends in a basement apartment on Algoma Street that left one 65-year-old man dead and another pleading guilty to second-degree murder, sending him to prison on a life sentence. 23-year-old Leif Hobson used his fists and a wooden knife block to kill Edgar Marion, but it didn't stop there. Hobson told police he cleaned up the apartment, wrapped the body in a blanket, and placed it in a car, grabbed 2 jerry cans filled with gasoline and set the apartment on fire, and then drove Marion's body to a wooded area off the expressway, where he later burned the car and the victim's remains in the trunk. Today, Marion's family were video conferenced into the courthouse to hear the final result that's taken 4 years to get to.
Mr. Hobson was sentenced to life imprisonment for second-degree murder, and his parole eligibility was set from at 15 years from the date that he was originally put into custody, which is in July of 2009.
Superior Court Justice Bruce Fitzpatrick accepted a joint submission from the defense and the Crown, which included concurrent sentences for indignity to a body and robbery with violence and arson. Hobson stared at the ground as the sentencing was read, and the court heard that Hobson, originally from Whitefish Bay, lived a hard life with his father and stepmother and has shown extreme guilt over what happened.
For 3 years or so, he was in custody fighting these charges, and then on his own volition, he summons the Thunder Bay Police to the Thunder Bay District Jail and gives a full inculpatory statement confessing to everything that was put before the court, and which showed that he wanted to get this over with. He didn't want to put the Marion family through any more discomfort over this tragedy, and he wanted to put to an end.
Hobson has requested that he serve his sentence in Kent, British Columbia, a maximum security prison that has Aboriginal rehabilitative programming. Courtney Rutherford, TBT News.
City Manager Tim Camiso says it was the right move to support the certification of a class action lawsuit against the city. As we first reported yesterday, a $375 million suit was certified by a Superior Court judge, clearing the way for the legal action to move forward. The city, through the Toronto law firm hired to handle the case, consented to the class action moving ahead. However, Camiso says that is in no way an admission of liability. Today, the lawyer who filed the case, Sandy Zaitsev, held a news conference to discuss the certification. He alleges the city was negligible and at fault for the sewage backing up into homes during the May 2012 flood. The certification of the lawsuit could have played out for months or even years, but City Manager Tim Camiso says allowing the certification to happen puts the city in a better position to defend against the legal action.
Focuses it, and in this particular case, the focus will be on those that were affected by the plant. So really what it's intending to do is allow us to now move forward, defend ourselves, and we're putting, all of the resources we can put in to defending ourselves, and really that's what it's about, is it's a step prior to the actual legal action that helps us, position it from a legal perspective.
So far, roughly 400 people have signed on to the class action suit, but that number could jump to as many as 3,000 now that it's been certified. Camiso would not comment on the legal costs already spent by the city on this matter.
Developers of one of the city's larger condominium projects say they've had setbacks, but work is still progressing at the Thunder Bay Country Club. Club Residence Developments came before council last night to get approval to increase the number of units it's currently constructing. Dennis Ward has more on what was a light night for City Council.
Be at 6 stories.
Club Residence Developments want to add an additional 29 units to the condominium currently under construction. Although the number would jump from 80 to 109 units, the height of the building would remain 6 stories. The team behind the condos at the Thunder Bay Country Club were asked about how things were coming along. Project manager Jim Peterson says there have been some setbacks, including the death of one of the partners and a construction worker on site. But Peterson says things are moving ahead, even if it doesn't necessarily look like it.
The problem is that this building is 2 stories underground, so when people are driving by, they really don't see any progress because they don't realize that it's basically 2 stories underground, and on the south end we're 3 stories below grade.
Council gave a unanimous thumbs up to the additional 29 units. The building will also include the pro shop, clubhouse, restaurant, and a banquet facility. Council also received an update on the local food strategy. Newly hired coordinator Kendall Donahue was asked many questions about the potential of backyard chicken keeping in Thunder Bay.
Public health departments in other cities have looked at the issue of urban hens and have actually started by being opposed to it, but as they've looked into the health implications, have come along in strong support of it.
The strategy will focus on increasing access to local food. It will also look at ways to increase the use of local food purchased by the public sector. Dennis Ward, TBT News.
Another section of Gol Links Road is now open to traffic. The stretch of road between the Harbour Expressway and Central Avenue is reopened this afternoon. Crews were out painting temporary lines and testing the lights at the Harbour intersection this morning. As it stands right now, only 1 lane of each of the new double left turn lanes at that intersection is available to motorists. City Engineering Manager Pat Morrow explains.
You'll still be able to make left turns. However, the signage for double lefts has not been installed yet, so we'll be waiting for those signs to be installed.
Work on the Gol Links project is a couple weeks behind the original schedule, mainly due to some additional culvert work that had to be completed near the Harbour intersection. However, Gol Links Road is expected to be fully 4-laned and open by mid-November, weather permitting, of course.
It's being billed as a safe and effective way to transport oil from Western Canada to refineries in the east. Now, residents of northwestern Ontario have an opportunity to weigh in on the TransCanada's Energy East pipeline. An open house is ongoing at this hour at the Thunder Bay Community Auditorium. The proposed 4,500-kilometer pipeline could carry up to 1.1 million barrels of crude oil per day from Alberta and Saskatchewan to refineries in eastern Canada. If approved, it will run about 70 kilometers north of Thunder Bay and closer to towns like Dryden and Nipigon. TransCanada officials say they're hearing a lot of questions about the safety of the project.
They want to talk about is how the pipeline is going to be coated, how big it is, very technical questions, and we set them up with our experts to find out what they want to know. And they also have a lot of questions about safety, so we are telling them, that we're going to be using, state-of-the-art coatings. The pipeline is going to be cleaned, going to be checked very, very carefully, and and what we're going to do to operate it safely.
This evening's open house runs until 8 o'clock at the community auditorium. TransCanada officials will follow that up with stops in Nipigon tomorrow and Geraldton on Thursday.
A small fire at the Thunder Bay District Jail prompted an evacuation of its inmates. Thunder Bay fire and rescue crews were dispatched to the jail shortly after 4 o'clock this afternoon for a fire that originated in a dryer. Firefighters on scene indicate the fire damage was minor and was contained to the one room. All of the inmates were accounted for and there were no reports of injuries.
A Thunder Bay woman has been arrested for allegedly stealing lottery tickets and tobacco products from a convenience store where she was an employee. The OPP and the Alcohol and Gaming Commission's Enforcement Bureau are investigating after being alerted to the incident by the OLG itself. The 56-year-old accused was arrested and charged with theft under $5,000. She's scheduled to appear in court again in November.
It's the first of its kind in Canada, and it's right here in Thunder Bay. A pregnancy test dispenser has been unveiled at Lakehead University inside the women's washroom at the Outpost Bar. The groundbreaking move has one goal in mind, and that's to raise awareness about fetal alcohol syndrome disorder and the effects of drinking alcohol while pregnant. The tests are available for $3 a piece. It's all part of the Think Before You Drink campaign that kicked off last July. LU Student Union Vice President Charmaine Romaniak hopes the dispenser has a powerful effect on people and the decisions they make.
Action rather than just a post. The posters are great, like the pregnant women, but this is something where you can actually act upon those thoughts. So you could see the poster and then you could be like, well, I am wondering. Come to the washroom, you try it out, and it's discreet, it's affordable. So I think this is actually perfect for the initiative in general.
She says if a woman knows she's pregnant and stops drinking within 18 days of it happening, FASD will not affect the baby.
A new Great Lakes vessel called the Thunder Bay will make its first visit on Friday to the city that inspired its name. The MV Thunder Bay was built in China and is a Trillium-class vessel in the Canada Steamship Line's fleet. The president of CSL, along with Mayor Keith Hobbs and the Thunder Bay Port Authority, will celebrate its arrival with a formal ceremony at Kiefer Terminal on Friday afternoon. The Thunder Bay is 225 meters long and 3 stories high. It uses 15% less fuel than older vessels and also releases fewer emissions. It's the third ship to be named after our city. The first one was active from 1895 until 1955. The second was launched in 1952 and scrapped in 1993.
Well, it's time to smile once again with the return of an annual campaign. Smile cookies are back at Tim Hortons. Local firefighters are helping make this year's fundraiser even better than last. Faces were smiling as residents donated $1 and received a smile cookie today at local Tim Hortons outlets. 100% of the proceeds from the cookies go towards helping the Toys for Tots campaign. Firefighters were on hand at numerous locations, including Oliver Road, doing what they could to pitch in. Paul Haino has been helping out for close to 6 years, and he says it's for a great cause.
It's a great campaign just for the kids, to buy presents for them. So the more money we raise, the more money we can spread out to the kids, more presents for the kids.
The staff are right into it. They love selling the cookies and promoting them. They even buy them themselves. And the customers, yeah, the ones that come inside, oh yeah, they'll buy dozens of them.
Today alone, we just did, just from 6 o'clock in the morning till about 9, we did 32 dozen.
That's close to 10 dozen batches an hour. Don't worry, the Smile cookies won't run out. They will be on sale at all Thunder Bay Tim Hortons locations